So yeah, this episode was definitely the most bleak of all the ones so far. Definitely very sad and ominous in tone. Where are we right now? Well, basically, with Joffrey and the Lannisters having taken control of the throne in King's Landing, Lord Stark is awaiting death for treason because he refused to recognize Joffrey. The youngest daughter, Arya, has fled King's Landing. Meanwhile, Sansa, the oldest daughter, is trying to have the best of both worlds still because she still wants to marry Joffrey, obviously, and marry into the royal family. But she also still wants to see her father survive, so around the very end, she does beg for mercy on her father, and Joffrey claims he will give it to him if he will recognize him as the king. That's basically how the episode ends. And meanwhile, it's pretty clear there's about to be a lot of bloodshed going because armies are assembling everywhere. One place they're not is the Vale, where Lady Stark's sister is hiding, because Lady Stark has essentially been told she will get no help from her sister or the Knights of the Vale. But she is going to get the help of her oldest son, Robb Stark. He's assembled all the forces of Winterfell in the north, and they're marching south to basically go to war with the Lannisters. Lady Stark has met up, of course, by this time with Robb and the forces he's assembled. Somewhat close to 20,000, they say 18 to 20,000. And of course, meanwhile, Tywin Lannister, the head of that household, has assembled his forces to go and pretty much, quote-unquote, defend his family at King's Landing, do battle with the House of the Starks. Unfortunately, he's also been joined by an army of brigands that's been assembled by Tyrion. So yeah, at this time, Tyrion, the one member of the Lannister clan that I actually like, is fighting side by side with them, but he does have ulterior motives. The only thing he wants is to basically overthrow and destroy the Knights of the Vale because of how he was treated over there, and he's promised all of these brigands that if they overthrow the Vale for him, they will get possession of that land. But his father, Tywin Lannister, has only promised them the weapons and armor they need if they'll fight side by side with him against the Starks. Meanwhile, Daenerys and Drogo are trying to find their way to lead their army over the narrow sea back to the Seven Kingdoms. Unfortunately, Daenerys isn't looking too fondly on how they attempt to get the money to purchase the ships that the Dothraki will need, and that basically involves capturing commoners and sheep herders in the area and selling them off to slavery. She's so opposed to it that as the queen of the Dothraki, she claims ownership of several women that were taken prisoner. This is actually a very interesting situation that's developing there, because I will say this. It's something I probably meant to say in earlier vlogs but forgot to mention it. As uncomfortable as those sex scenes with Drogo and Daenerys were in the early episodes of this series, it's pretty clear by now that Drogo does love and care for Daenerys. And it's also pretty clear that we're going to have a situation hopefully maybe pretty soon down the road where his love for Daenerys is going to, and what she wishes of him to do, is going to heavily conflict with his forces in the Dothraki. Because they did, many of them, or at least some of his more high-ranking lieutenants as they were, opposed her not allowing the ladies to be sold into slavery, and then allowing one of them who claimed to be a healer to help heal a small wound he suffered, fighting another one of his men that opposed Daenerys' orders. And while all this is going on, we still have what's going on up at the Wall, where, as we find out, some men, they bring back some what appeared to be corpses that were found over the wall on the north side, but they turn out to be zombies. Yeah, we're finally getting there. This is the first time that I've seen, at least, of really supernatural, mythological beings actually being seen in this show. And that's one of the things I've been looking forward to more than anything else. So, 7 episodes in, better late than never, I guess. They basically, the Night Watchers are basically determined that these men became zombies because they were touched by the White Walkers. I believe that's what they're called, the White Walkers. While at the same time, this one woman who had come across, had fled from over the wall into the southern lands, for southern lands, she means around Winterfell. She and her family had tried to rob and attack Bram. She was the only one that survived when his family proceeded to defend Bram. She's now basically become a slave to the House of Stark. But the main thing I'm getting at here is, like I said, she was originally from north of the Wall, and she's warning Bram, who's now the last Stark in Winterfell, with Robb and the army heading south, warning them that all of the human forces, should actually be heading north to the Wall. Because something still, as we've been alluding to, something very, very bad is apparently going to be coming there. So obviously we're at a point where, for all intents, the mystery segment has ended at the very least. It hasn't yet to be stated who exactly was behind the poisoning of Lord Arryn and perhaps conspired to assist the king's death, but I guess it really doesn't matter anymore at this point. The Lannisters have control of the house. And I'm gonna admit, this is one of those bleak episodes where this is one of the reasons I don't really watch a lot of serious drama shows anymore, and why it took me so long to watch this series, because episodes like this just really get to me. I don't know if it's because I'm manic depressive or something like that, but yeah. All I get watching this is a large amount of seething sadness, fear, and hatred toward just about everybody. And we've got 3 episodes left in this season, and all I can hope is that it's going to end on somewhat of a positive note. But knowing that this thing was essentially made by George R.R. Martin, I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen.